Okay, we're going to be eating. We're going to be starting in just like 2 minutes. So if you want to get some more food, you can feel free to eat while I'm talking. So load up now. There's lots there. Are you ready? All right. Here we go. Are we live streaming now? Okay, we're live streaming. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at Shaddai Ministries. Tonight, we're going to be celebrating the new moon of what month? Adar. That's exactly right. So I have it put on the screen, this little sun and moon. We know from Genesis 1:14. Why did God create the sun and the moon? What did he say? It was for what? Signs. It was for seasons, days, and years. And we know the word seasons. That's right. We ought to have a camera point right on you ladies' backs there to see Genesis 1:14. But it's for the biblical calendar. Okay, the world uses a calendar which is very scientific based on the sun. Islam uses a very scientific calendar based on the moon. But God said he wants to schedule his divine appointments on a calendar that's based on both the sun and the moon. And we find that in Genesis 1:14. So the new moon really is every month is the most pivotal date of the month, because how can you know when the other feasts are if you don't know when the first day is? All right, so we know also in Genesis 2:9, if you're taking notes, we also are going to see in Revelation 22. In Genesis 2, the Bible begins with the tree of life. And in Revelation 22, the Bible ends with the tree of life. So the tree of life is very important. And in Genesis 2:9, it talks about how he made the tree of life and he put it in the midst of the garden. And then look at Revelation 22, verse 1 and 2. We see showing up a river of water of life, and it comes out of the throne of God. And then it says on one side of the river and on the other side, it was kind of like right in the middle, it says, there was the tree of life, and it bears 12 kinds of fruits. Now, I don't know if that's all 12 at one time or if that's for the 12 months, and each month, like 1 month could be apples, the next month it'll be pears. I don't know. But it says it yields its fruit every month. Okay, so if it yields its fruit every month, do you think they're talking January, February, March, and April? No, they're talking the biblical months. And even during the millennial reign. Now, when it talks about the new moon, listen to Ezekiel 46:1. Thus says the Lord God, the gate of the inner court that looks toward the east will be shut 6 working days, but on the Sabbath day it'll be open. And then it says, also in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. Okay, so we know that that during the millennial reign, we'll be keeping the Sabbath and we'll be keeping the new moon. That's what Ezekiel 46 is saying. And this is where John gets the whole concept in the book of Revelation. Now, how about when there's a new heaven and a new earth? Will we be keeping the new moon after the millennial reign when there's a new heaven and a new earth? Now, some people misinterpret Revelation where it says there's no need of the sun because the Lamb is in the midst of the throne. That doesn't mean there isn't a sun. It's just saying you don't, like, who needs a flashlight when there's stars? Okay, so that what he's saying is there's, you don't have any need of it. But listen to Isaiah 66, verse 22 and 23. It says, as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make. How many of you know that hasn't happened yet? Oh, hope so. Yeah, okay. Shall remain before me, says the Lord. So shall your seed and your name remain. He's referring to King David and Israel, Judah. It says, it'll happen from one new moon to another, from one Sabbath to another. All flesh will come to worship before me. Wow, so that means even not only do we keep the new moon and the Sabbath during the millennial reign, after the millennial reign, when there's a new heaven and a new earth, the sun and the moon are still going to be there, and we'll still be keeping the new moon for eternity and the Sabbath for eternity, and everyone's going to come before the Lord. And then, I really like this picture. That's why I picked that picture. Listen to Psalms 104, and this is verse 19 through 21. He made the moon to mark the seasons. Right there it is. He made the moon to mark the appointed times. And the sun knows when it's to go down. You make darkness, and it's nighttime, where all the beasts of the forest creep forth. The young lions roar after their prey and seek their meat from God. I'm just so glad that I wasn't caught that one night in Africa. All right. So, one of the things we always do in Psalms 81, verse 3 and 4, it says, blow the shofar at the new moon and at the full moon for our feast day. What feast days are at the full moon? Passover and Tabernacles. Right. So we're to blow the new moon, or blow the shofar on the new moons, and then also on Passover and Tabernacles. It says it's a statute for Israel. It's an ordinance of the God of Jacob. I see some shofars there. Who wants to blow the shofar? All right, go ahead. Just blow that shofar. Yay! Wow, we had like 4 shofars going. Y'all got your breath back? But here's the important thing about the moon. Why God created it too. It's all about his covenant with King David. Listen to this. Psalm 89, verse 20. God says, I found David, my servant. With my holy oil I anointed him, with whom my hand will be established. My arm also shall strengthen him. And then listen to verse 23 and 24 of Psalm 89. It goes on to say, I'm going to beat to pieces his adversaries. How many do you want to be on that side? I don't think so. I'm going to smite them that hate him. Wow, David is a Jew. He's from Judah, okay? And God says he's going to smite those that hate him. And then God says, but my faithfulness and my mercy will be with him, and through my name shall his horn be exalted. And then listen to verse 28 and 29. Forever will I keep for him my mercy. My covenant will stand fast with him. His seed also I will make to endure forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. That goes back to Isaiah 66. I was telling you it was about David. But now listen to this. This is Psalm 89, verse 33 through verse 37. God says, nevertheless, my loving kindness I will never utterly take from him, nor allow my faithfulness to fail. My covenant I will not break. I will not alter the word that's gone out of my lips. Once I've sworn by my holiness, I will not lie to David. His seed shall endure forever. The Jewish people are going to endure for how long? Forever. His throne will remain as the sun does before me. It'll be established forever like the moon, even like the faithful witness in the sky. So when we see the moon in the sky, we have to realize that is a sign that God's covenant is with David and the Jewish people forever. That puts a whole new meaning to looking at the moon. Okay. Now in Jeremiah, verse 33, Jeremiah 33, verse 25 and 26. God says, if my covenant is not with day and night, wow, can you imagine if all of a sudden the sun and the moon disappear? We're in trouble. He says, if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, only then will I cast away the descendants of Jacob and David, my servant. That's why God's never going to get rid of the sun and the moon. It's always going to be here because of the fact his covenant is always forever. Now, in Exodus 12:2, here's where it all begins. This month shall be your beginning of months. It'll be the first month of the year to you. All right? So this Nisan 1 is the first month of the religious calendar. Tishri 1 is the first month of the civil calendar. They have 4 different biblical calendars. Okay, so that's what we need to realize. It's not one overrules the other one. They're just different. Just like Shavat, Tu B'Shavat is the year for trees. You know, that's when you could pick the fruit. You have to know when to pick the fruit. They also have a month for tithing on cattle. That's a little one, different things. But anyway, so now, my next question, or the thing I want to mention is this. What they would do in ancient Israel, when they spot the new moon, there'd be 2 or 3 witnesses would have to come and testify. And when they agreed and the Sanhedrin said, yes, it's now the new month, they would light these torches on mountaintops. And it would go from mountaintop to mountaintop all the way to Iraq and Iran and Egypt. Everyone would start lighting candles so they would know when the new moon has begun. All right? Now, here's the thing. Did you know those sneaky Samaritans would purposely light fires on the wrong days just to mess them up? That's what they would do. So after a while, they had to find another way. But that's what would happen. Okay, the next thing. Leviticus 20, verse 7 and 8. First off, what does holiness mean? To be holy means what? That's what it means, to be set apart. Now, we can make ourselves holy to ourselves. Okay, churches, church is the church of holiness or whatever. And they decide that, you know, all kinds of weird things for everybody that they have to do to conform to holiness of their denomination. But that doesn't make them holy to God. That just makes them holy to the denomination. You following me? God determines what makes us holy to him. We don't determine, okay, God, I'm going to be holy to you, so I've decided I'm going to wear a pumpkin on my head. Okay, or whatever. But that doesn't work. Only God determines how he wants to make people holy. So if we want to be holy to him, we have to do what he prescribes. So look at Leviticus 27 and 8. God says to consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I'm the Lord your God, and you're to keep my statutes and perform them. It says, because I am the Lord who sanctifies you. So the Lord sets us apart, and then our job is to remain set apart. Okay? Look at Leviticus 20, verse 26. God says, you shall be holy to me, for I, the Lord, am holy, and I've separated you from the nations that you should be mine. All right, so God has separated us from the nations, Israel, and now we're grafted into Israel. But the point is that's so that we're his. It's just like with a wedding and making vows. We belong to him and him only. So look at this, Leviticus 18:30. It says, therefore, you are to keep my charge that you don't do any of these abominable customs which were done before you, and that you defile not yourselves, for I am the Lord your God. Okay, so God, the way we are holy and maintain our holiness is by doing the things that God asks us to do, like acknowledging the new moon, keeping the Sabbath. Does that make sense? Okay. So with that said, let's stand, and we're going to say the new moon prayers, then we'll sit down, and then I'm going to teach you a little bit about this upcoming month called Adar. All right, I've got like 4 different slides for the prayers, and we can all say them together. Hopefully you have your glasses on at the back, and you can read these. All right, together. May it be thy will, Lord, our God and God of our fathers, that you begin for us this month for good and for blessing. May you give to us long life, a life of peace, a life of goodness, a life of blessing, a life of substance, a life of physical health, a life in which there is fear of heaven and fear of sin, a life in which there is no shame or humiliation, a life of wealth and honor, a life in which we love Torah and fear God, a life in which the Lord fulfills the requests of our hearts for good. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who created the skies by your word and all of heaven's hosts with the breath of your mouth. You gave them appointed times and roles, and they never missed their cues, doing their Creator's bidding with gladness and joy. You are the true Creator who acts faithfully and has told the moon to renew itself. It is a beautiful crown for the people of Israel who are carried by God from birth, and who will likewise be renewed in the future in order to proclaim the beauty of their Creator for his glorious majesty. Blessed are you, O Lord, who renews the moons. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us by your commandments and commanded us to be a light to the nations, and has given us Yeshua, our Messiah, the light of the world. Amen. You can sit down. All right, if you want to blow the shofar one more time, go ahead. All right. Yay. Let's give them a big hand. Great job. Great job. Okay, here we are, the month of Adar. What do you guys see when you look at this picture? Hamatasha. That's exactly right. What happens in the month of Adar this coming month? Purim. That's exactly right, which is all about what book of the Bible? Esther. And what was Esther's Hebrew name? Yes, that's exactly right. Hadassah. Okay. Well, let me explain to you a little bit about a month of Adar. Who knows what tribe is associated with this month? Bible quiz. Okay, can anyone read the Hebrew up there? Naphtali. That's what it is. That's the one. So let's take a look at Genesis 49:21. I want you to know the sages say Naphtali was the one son of Jacob that was his trusted messenger. If Jacob wanted something, a message sent, he would use Naphtali. He was the trusted messenger. And we even see Jacob's blessing in Genesis 49:21. He says, Naphtali is a deer let loose. He gives words of elegance. Okay? Well, here's what's fascinating about this. The historical stories go that was like the Pony Express. In ancient times, notes were tied to the horns of a deer, and they would be let loose, so they would run back to their natural habitat, and their friends would read the note. And they were thought of as the ones who would bring the good news. And so we are to bring the good news of the gospel, okay? And so that's kind of an interesting play. In Isaiah 52:7, it says, how beautiful on the mountains are the feet of him that brings what? The good news, that publishes peace, that brings good tidings of good, that publishes Yeshua, salvation, that says that to Zion, your God reigns. The other interesting thing, if you look at a map, you see here where Naphtali's territory was, it's around the Sea of Galilee. Do you see that? And up north. It so happens, like Tu B'Shavat has to do with the trees bearing fruit. They say the fruit trees always bore fruit first in Naphtali's area. That was the area that would produce fruit first. Okay, let's look at Deuteronomy 33:23 of Moses' blessing toward Naphtali. And he said, Naphtali is satisfied with favor. He's full of the blessing of the Lord, possess the west and the south. Well, I think that's, how would you like to be full of the blessing of the Lord? Oh, man, that is awesome. Now, we see also that, who knows what Naphtali's name means? Why did Leah name him Naphtali? Does anyone remember what his name? They always named him after a characteristic. Yes, okay. It means to wrestle. She wrestled with God, and it's like the Hebrew word means to twist or to wrestle. All right. Well, what's fascinating? What's the Hebrew word for prayer? Tefillah. Okay. The prayer boxes on their heads are called what? Tefillin. Okay. Well, guess what? Tefillin can be rearranged to be Naphtali. Tefillin and Naphtali go together. There's a connection. Isn't that fascinating? And so Naphtali is the one who wrestles with God in prayer. That's what it means, to wrestle. And so we find that rearranging those letters, you get to pray. And how many sometimes, the thing about prayer, a child can do it, but it taxes the most strongest adult. So that's one thing about prayer. But we're to wrestle with God in prayer. Now, just on a side note, which I always thought was just kind of fascinating, this is more of a personal note. My ancestor was Isaac Hirsch. Okay? Hirsch is a German word. Guess what Hirsch means? Deer. So his name was Isaac Hirsch, and he changed his name to Naphtali Biltz. And Naphtali is as a hind let loose. So this is why, I think that's just very interesting. And basically, they say the mother determines if you're Jewish, the father determines what tribe you're from. So I almost wonder if I'm not from the tribe of Naphtali, my ancestors' line, but who knows? Okay, now the next thing, Psalm 42, verse 1 and 2. As the deer pants for the water brook, so my soul pants after you, God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When will I come and appear before God? How many of you have ever been thirsty before? Really thirsty. Your throat was parched. You're thirsty. Well, I believe that has to be our attitude toward God. We want to have the attitude as, when am I going to come and appear before God? We have to thirst after God. Not just want him if he happens to come along, kind of an attitude. Concerning Naphtali, what kind of a character did he have? Well, let's look at Judges 5:18. It talks about how the tribe of Zebulun were a people that jeopardized their lives to the death. How many know that's pretty committed? And then it says Naphtali was also. So Naphtali was a tribe that would jeopardize their lives to the death. Now, here's something else. What is the first Torah portion typically in the month of Adar? Okay, this is Adar 1. So tomorrow, so what's the Torah portion this weekend? Terumah. Okay? Terumah, what does Terumah mean? What is this Torah portion all about? It's to offer up. They're collecting everything to build the tabernacle. Everyone is bringing all of the gold and the silver and all the material, the purple and linen and scarlet. This weekend, Terumah weekend, the Torah portion means the offering has come to build the tabernacle. And what I think is amazing, it just so happens this Shabbat is when everyone's going to gather at our new building and we're going to pray for the new building. Now, that's pretty cool timing, if you ask me. Yeah, this very Torah portion. Listen to Exodus 25, 1 and 2. This is the first verse of this weekend's Torah portion. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel that they may bring me an offering," a terumah, something lifted up of everyone that gives, but I want it willingly with his heart. You shall take my offering. It wasn't a forced thing. Everyone, it was just from the heart. We want God's presence among us, so we're going to give to get God's presence here. I just think that's so cool that this is the weekend we're doing the prayer at the new building. Now, because that is always the Torah portion, okay, let me say this. The word terumah, it's in English it was offering, but it derives itself from two separate root words in Hebrew that mean both to separate and then to elevate. Once you separate it, it becomes holy, and then you elevate it, you lift it up to God. Okay, who knows the month of Adar, what happens biblically in the month of Adar and historically as well? Does anyone else? Oh, well, let me mention this. What happened? I mentioned this on Shabbat. What happened in the month of Adar? Moses was born and Moses died on the same day. And that was the 7th of Adar, which this year is March 3rd, if you want to mark your calendar, March 3rd. And then, of course, it's also the month of Purim that we talked about. Okay, so it's definitely a month when we need to be on guard. But guess what? Going back to Terumah, bringing the offering, that is why every year the month of Adar is the time of the temple tax, when they would collect the tax for the maintenance of the temple, because it took place in Adar. All right? Watch this. Everyone familiar with this verse? Matthew 17, 24 through 27. When they came to Capernaum, they that received the half shekel came to Peter and says, "Does not your teacher pay the half shekel?" And he said, "Yeah." And so when he came into the house, Yeshua spoke first to Peter, saying, "What do you think, Peter? The kings of the earth, whom did they receive toll or tribute? From their sons or from strangers?" And when he said, "Well, it's from strangers," Yeshua said, "Therefore the sons are free. They don't pay the tax. But lest we cause them to stumble, go out to the sea, cast a hook, and take up the fish that first comes up. And when you open his mouth, you shall find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for me and you." Everyone remember that story? Guess when that took place? In the month of Adar. If you don't understand the Jewish history, that's when the temple tax was taken, you don't know the month that's going on. So it was this very month that we're in right now when that incident happened, because next month after Adar is what month? Nisan, which is Passover. Okay, that's the beginning of the religious year. That's why the 12th month, the month of Adar, they collect the offerings and the temple tax, because of Nisan, now we're going to go into Passover, and they want everything ready to go. Does that make sense? Now you know all about Adar. All right, with that said, let's stand. We'll close in prayer and bless one another, and thank you all for coming on this beautiful night. And I don't know if we're cloudy when you go out, but look for the new moon. All right. Ivarekaka Adonai v'yishmereka, Ya'er Adonai panav ileka v'chuneka, Yisa Adonai panav ileka v'yasem laka shalom. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace, in that most wonderful name. Eyeh, Asher, Eyeh. Amen. Thank you. Bless the Lord. You blessed him by being here and honoring this day.